Tim Walz dodges big question on whether Israel has a right to strike Iran.
Do you know that some of them are carrying Hamas flags? Some of them are calling for the extermination of the Jewish state. Do you want to clarify your praise for that?
Yeah, clarify it. How dare you say that American students in your state have a right to make demands? How dare you say that they are allowed to be anti-genocide? Come on. They got Hamas flags. First of all, who has Hamas flags? This is a conversation I had with Felix. Like, can you even get a Hamas flag? Like, how would you be able to get one? Okay. Or Hezbollah flags. You know what I mean? People are always like, oh, what about Hezbollah flags? They're waving Hezbollah flags. I see them at protests. I'm like, how the did you guys even get that? I guess Etsy, Amazon, Redbubble. I don't know. How does that not get flagged by our security state?
Yeah, I'm certainly not talking about them. I'm talking about the people who understand that we have to end the humanitarian crisis, but they understand we need to return the hostages, bring peace to the region. Look, I will always defend people's rights to First Amendment, but that's not the folks I'm talking about. Those folks are not speaking for the entire group. So I think it's very clear on this. Israel's right, as we've stood with them. Anti-Semitism has no place in this country, and Vice President.
Yeah, totally cave on the framing. Yeah, those guys are anti-Semitic. You're right. All those college students, they're anti-Semitic. We should them.
Harris has been clear about that. I've been clear about it. But the ability to bring a peaceful solution and understand Israel's right to defend itself, the return of the hostages, and Gazans' right to live in peace too is something that we're trying to get to.
I may be alone in this opinion, but I really do think he straight up doesn't believe a word he's saying and is just doing the matchup with Kamala. He's not that stupid. No, I agree. You can tell when he's talking about he cares about versus when he's talking about this. I don't think he gives a but it doesn't matter because like saying the lines, okay, which robs him of any sort of authenticity. And also it's a perfect Democratic position, okay? It's so perfect for the modern Democratic Party because if your likability, your approval came from the fact that you're like a real guy that spoke convincingly on issues that were harming the American population, okay? And now you're just like forced to be this empty suit, this puppet, you are now officially inauthentic doubly, okay? You're doubly inauthentic. Like, this is why I said Josh Shapiro would be so much more convincing, okay? I don't like the guy, but he 100% would sit there and be like, our commitment to Israel is firm. Your line of questioning here is anti-Semitic. Our commitment to Israel is firm. And the fact that you are asking me, perhaps the first Jewish vice presidential candidate on a ticket with the first Black Indian American candidate, how dare you ask this line of questioning to me, a black man? I mean, I'm not Barack Obama. I'm Josh Shapiro. How dare you? And pussy too. That's what he would do. He would cook. Let me be clear.
And that's going to take the leadership that we've seen out of Vice President Harris, being able to hold this coalition together. And again, when Iran launched their missiles this week, she's in the Situation Room. That's different. The people who are in the Situation Room with Donald Trump, like John Kelly as chief of staff, said he shouldn't be there. He's a damaged human being. His own defense secretary said he does not understand the situation, is incapable of dealing with it.
Okay.
So it's about character.
Let's focus on what your position is and the vice president's position as well. I want to talk about abortion too, because this came up at the debate. It's been a winning argument for Democrats on many ballots.
What?
But I want to clear.
Wait, what? Yo, how is this possible? Dude, they really got everything out there, dude. That's the real bipartisan consensus right there. Not the bipartisan consensus, sorry. That's the real centrist. God damn, that's incredible. Okay, I kind of want this now. What the oh my God. What an incredible flag, dude. Oh my God. Oh my God. I love that. Imagine going to a protest on either side waving that thing. Yeah. Wow. I just want everyone to have a good time flag. I want to know the mindset of the guy who writes a review. Dude, 6 sold, 13 sold. Like, they've sold these flags. There are 19 people out there that have acquired these flags. That's incredible. That is fantastic. This is healing the world, okay? Every opinion is valid. I can't. Oh my God. What an incredible invention.
Clarify what the law is there in Minnesota. Abortion Finder, a website that helps women find access, says abortion is legal throughout pregnancy in Minnesota. There is no ban. or limit on abortion in Minnesota based on how far along in a pregnancy you are. You signed the bill that makes it legal through all 9 months. Is that a position you think Democrats should advocate for nationally?
Ooh, this is a good one. Let's see how he. This is one he does care about. Let's see how he responds to this.
The vice president and I have been clear. The restoration of Roe versus Wade is what we're asking for.
But that
this is
law
a
goes
woman's
far beyond
right
Roe v. Wade
to make her own choice. The law is very clear. It does not change that. That was been debunked on every occasion.
But
look,
wait,
this is a.
But let's agree. What you signed is there's not a single limit through 9 months of pregnancy. Roe had a trimester framework that did have limits through the pregnancy. The Minnesota law does not have that.
This puts the decision with the woman and her health care providers. The situation we have is when you don't have the ability of health care providers to provide that, that's where you end up with a situation like Amanda.
This line of questioning is obviously super commonplace on Fox News and in most like right-wing places, even like liberal outlets that want to present themselves as like nonpartisan or whatever. But the answer is very simple. It's like, yeah, dude, we're not making a restriction on a medical procedure just because some crazy people imagined a false reality where someone is carrying a pregnancy almost to term just to get a fun abortion. Like, that's not real. That's not, you just made that problem up. Okay. Third trimester abortions are infinitely more traumatic because almost every single instance is a pregnancy that the carrier wanted to take the term. Like, they have to do it because of a medical necessity, because it's done out of a medical necessity. Like, you have to get counseling beforehand in order to actually make this decision. You're talking about people who literally have bought like baby clothes and who came up with a name for their child and now, due to medical complications, have to get this pregnancy terminated. Why would you want to complicate that further, especially when these procedures are not the same as like the 90% of abortions that happen in the first trimester, oftentimes with a simple pill that you take. But beyond that, you're making this already traumatic experience worse for people because now they might not even be able to get it because the doctors are afraid that they might be legally prosecuted, like criminally prosecuted.
Zaworski in Texas, where they are afraid to do what's necessary. This doesn't change anything. It puts the decision back on to the woman, to the physicians, and we know that this is simply something to be brought up to be very clear. Donald Trump's asking for a nationwide abortion ban.
Wait, he
and
has
again,
said that
we don't see this
he has
as a
said
winning
repeatedly
campaign.
that he will not sign a national abortion ban.
Dude, yeah, no, he won't. He's, hey, I'm going to claim that you want to kill children after they like are outside of the womb. Also, Donald Trump is very honest, and he's not going to sign an abortion ban, national abortion ban.
And are you calling that just, it's a flat out lie?
Yes, of course. And Senator Vance has in the past said so too. Now, look, they may see this as an election issue. We see it as a right of women to make their own bodily decisions. And that's what the states like my state have the ability to put that in. States like Georgia.
Like, look at the energy. Look at the energy when he's defending like a woman's right to choose versus the energy when he's defending Israel's right to choose nuclear holocaust. Yeah, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have the juice. He doesn't have the sauce. 100%. This is why I'm saying, like, unironically, Josh Shapiro would be a better pick if you were going to go along with this attitude. It's so stupid. He probably wouldn't even be that good at, like, you know, communicating within the permission structure of being able to say that like Palestinians are human, but at least it would be more genuine, right? It makes no sense. I don't understand it. That's why he got owned on the VP debate too. It was such a sad state of affairs. Came out of the gates swinging, being like, listen, Israel has a right to first strike Iranian nuclear facilities, you know?
Force women to cross the border, and then we have a death of Amber Thurman. So let's be very clear. Trying to cut hairs on an issue on this is not where the American public's at. They want the restoration of Roe versus Wade. Vice President Harris said she would sign it. That's what we'll do when we're elected.
But to be clear, the Minnesota law
right
is far beyond Roe v. Wade. And about the Amber Thurman case in Georgia, her family has, and it's tragic, she is a young mother who left behind a young son. But what her family has said is it was a complication from an abortion pill that she received, and she didn't get proper care when she went to a Georgia hospital, which had multiple opportunities to intervene there. Her own attorney, the family's attorney.
They're saying, skill issue. Like, it's not our fault. It's not the Republican Party's fault. Skill issue about a person who died, by the way. That's crazy.
Attorney says it wasn't the Georgia law. It was the hospitals, what he claims is malpractice, not treating her when she clearly showed up in distress and still had the byproducts of her pregnancy because of that rare complication from the abortion pill. So just to be clear on the Georgia law and how her family and her attorney sees it.
I think they also indicated that had she not go to North Carolina after the debate the other night, that she would have been in a better position. So look, these are the situations you're going.
Wait, I'm confused. It's not. Wait, what's the time? Oh, this is from yesterday. Guys, October 6th was a very different day, to be fair, than October 7th, which happens to be the day where Georgia Supreme Court reinstated its abortion ban. Very different time frame. You have to understand. Okay. So even that being in legal limbo in the state of Georgia, that's not the fault of the Republican Party. It's not in legal limbo now. Georgia Supreme Court reinstated the abortion ban, so now it's perfectly set in stone. As someone with an avid pro-lifer family member, they don't believe in people having fun abortions so much as they tend to be anti-medicalists who believe that abortion doctors are eugenicists with a profit motive, convincing women to get abortions for financial and ideological gain. That's it. I'm just addressing the talking points that are commonly given in the media. But that is, I don't know what the to say to that. That's like even more insane. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of people in America that are anti-medicalist.
When you take this decision and put it in the hands of politicians like Donald Trump, rather than women and their doctors, we trust women, we trust doctors, and we know the outcomes of that are better.
Okay, let's clarify more changes that you signed in Minnesota.
Controversial opinion, I know, but I don't think we should be held captive by like 30% of the electorate that is simply hallucinating positions at this point. Just do normal legislation and move on, and then jiggle some keys in front of them because they're going to shift their attention to that because they're stupid. Okay. The quicker you recognize that, like, beyond the material conditions that create a perfect opportunity for right-wing radicalization, there are a lot of people who are just objectively stupid or completely oblivious to the reality. If you talk to a lot of Trump supporters, you start recognizing that. Democrats do this too, for sure. Right. And some might even say they're more annoying than the Republicans because, like, the Republican, you're like, oh, sweetie. Like, by the end of that conversation, you're like, oh, you just don't know anything. Whereas the Democrat is like so self-assured because they've read a New York Times article on the matter, right? And have that like arrogance and entitlement and elitist sentiment. Having said that, however, like I said, talk to Republicans, you will understand that like a ginormous chunk of their worldview simply stems from just not knowing what's going on. That's it. Literally, they just don't know. They are living in their own bubble. Like they're just experiencing collective psychosis at any given day, at any given moment. It is crazy. Okay. We see them in here. We see them in here all the time when a lot of these dudes come into the chat and they do it from a liberal framework sometimes, or from a Republican framework as well, where they'll just be like that one guy who was like, oh, well, I used to be a liberal, but, they're mutilating children. It's like, what do you do? What do you do with that? Yeah, zero intellectual curiosity, no interest in like understanding what's going on at all. Just hallucinating an alternative reality that they're comfortable existing in.
I want to talk a little bit about your record as governor because it elucidates for people how you may serve as whether you end up being the president. You'll be one heartbeat away should your ticket be successful. Wall Street Journal says this after you were chosen to join the ticket. As the Democratic governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz signed into law initiatives allowing immigrants in the country illegally.
So this is so immigration, like I said, these are the two weakest points for the Democrats beyond the economy, right? The economy conversation can be defeated because they have to like stand in opposition to the Republicans no matter what on that front. But like on immigration and on Israel, it's uniparty. So even if Tim Walz's track record has been decent on this as the governor of Minnesota, he now has to sit there and defend very stupid right-wing reactionary framing on the matter. Let's see how he does.
To apply for driver's licenses, qualify for free tuition at state universities, and enroll in the state's free health care program for low-income residents. Are those not magnets to draw people here, many times on dangerous journeys for themselves And why should your taxpayers in Minnesota or across the state?
I like the argument. This is like one of the grossest ways. It's very Israel coded, but I guess Israel's very America coded, if we're being real. But ultimately, the notion that like you're doing this to somehow protect these migrants that are making this journey is so stupid, because your goal is apprehension, detention, and then deportation. Like, why are you even acting like you care about their well-being? It's such a stupid thing to say. Oh, well, don't you think you're inviting them to your state to make this like treacherous journey that's very dangerous for themselves, which is much better than what I want to do to them, which is kill them? We're killing you for your own good. We're saving you from Hamas. Oops, the talking points.
States pay for those programs.
Well, that's not the vice president's position, but I will say this. Minnesota ranks as a top 5 business state. We rank as a top 3 state for children living, and we're the top state for healthcare access. I would also add this. We also have some of the safest roads. Look, the vice president has made it clear that she has policies that make a difference. Her border policies are the most strongest, the fairest we've seen. It's
But
the
now,
bill
Governor,
that was
you know a lot of
crafted.
people, including your own party, would not join that statement. They're
Great. I'm so glad that the Democratic Party is the right-wing party, so that these insanely right-wing losers can just sit there and be like, well, your party doesn't agree with you. I don't care about the results of your good policy in your state is an insane way to have this conversation. Like, his argument is literally, look at Minnesota. It's killing it, okay? You say these policies are bad, and yet these policies implemented in Minnesota have made my state thrive as the governor, okay? So what the are you chirping about? Maybe I'm right and you're wrong is the argument here, but it doesn't matter to this demon, because her job is to basically say, well, now your party doesn't agree with you. What's up with that? This is why it's a major failure on all fronts when these dip went right on immigration. I really hate how even for the well-meaning pro-immigration liberals, it's viewed in the context of productivity and skills. God forbid we attract people to build good communities, get back to those communities in general, bring cultural diversity, expands people's horizons. If they're not working, we don't want it. I mean, yeah, but we've already moved beyond like immigrants working as well.
millions of people who have come here over the last few years that, they see this as an open
policies.
border.
Well, simply, we have a policy. Donald Trump sees it as a political. Look, James Langford in Oklahoma, the Border Patrol agents, the Wall Street Journal, the Chamber of Commerce, all said pass this legislation. You have to have Congress to authorize 1,500 new border agents. You have to have Congress to authorize DOJ to speed adjudications on these asylum claims. Those are things that would actually work. Donald Trump told us for 4 years he would deal with this. He didn't. He didn't build his wall, 2%. Mexico didn't pay for it. This is a real bill that has bipartisan support. It has the experts on board, and it starts to tackle these issues. And we don't have to resort to demonizing people. We don't have to resort to making up or crafting stories, as Senator Vance said he did. Those things were not happening in Springfield, but it doesn't mean that we can't pass a piece of legislation to strengthen our border. That's what Kamala Harris is talking about.
Well,
She's talking
Governor,
about solving the problem.
That piece of legislation does include the wall that you guys have been so, you've disparaged that. I mean, the vice president has as well. So I don't know if she really intends to move forward with that. But it was negotiated by 3 or 4 senators, and many Republicans came out against it long before President Trump indicated he didn't like it either. Listen, before we go, because I wish that we had a full hour, I want to give you a chance, because you called yourself a knucklehead this week, to talk about some of your misstatements. You've
She's just ripping into him so hard. Jesus Christ.
modified your story or explained that you misspoke about things involving your military rank, about carrying a weapon in war, your 1995 DUI arrest, using IVF to have your beautiful children, Gus and Hope, being in Hong Kong and China in the summer of 1989 during the Tiananmen events. A lot of people would say they couldn't get away with saying, I'm just too passionate, my grammar's not right, I'm a knucklehead. What do you say to the American people who think, I don't know that I can trust this guy with all those modifications to be the potential commander-in-chief of this country?
Yeah, well, I think they heard me. They heard me the other night speaking passionately about gun violence and misspeaking. And I got to be honest with you, Shannon, I don't think people care whether I used IUI or IVF when we talk about this. What they understand is Donald Trump would resist those things. Look, I speak passionately. I had an entire career, decades before I was in public office. They know, and I'm very proud of my 24 years in service and my record. I have never disparaged someone else in this, but I know that's not what Donald Trump does. They disparage disparage everyone. The personal attacks. I will own up when I misspeak. I will own up when I make a mistake. But let's be very clear. On that debate stage the other night, I asked one very simple question, and Senator Vance would not acknowledge that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. I think they're probably far more concerned with that than my wife and I used IUI to have our child, and that Donald Trump would restrict that. So I think folks know who I am. My constituents here in Minnesota have elected me 8 times. They know where I'm at, and I'm proud to be on the ticket, and we'll deliver just like we have here in Minnesota.
Right. And if we're going to deal in truth, both the president, the former president, and his nominee have said that they are very supportive of IVF. We are glad you have your precious family. We thank you for serving in uniform and your years and decades as a teacher. My mom was too. I know it's really hard work and sometimes very thankless. So,
oh God.